Welcome to the bunker. Welcome to the Renegades of Puck podcast. I'm your host and captain, Crazy Charlie Saunier, and I sure do appreciate each and every one of you joining us for another season of Nashville Predators and far beyond the borders of Middle Tennessee hockey coverage. But before we get to that no half step in hockey coverage, you know I have to direct you to our website, renegadesofpuck.com. Once you get there, you'll learn everything you need to know about the Renegades of Puck. It is your gateway to the Renegades. You can also click on the merch page while you're there. And once you're there, you'll find all of our great t-shirts, our classic logo t-shirt, our pride logo t-shirts, all of our special event t-shirts, of course, socks, throw pillows, wall art, and all of the other gimmicks the Renegades of Puck are so famous for. We've sold out so that you can buy in. We sure would appreciate each and every one of you for picking up some merch, and we appreciate each and every one of you who picked up merch over the summer months. We sold a lot of t-shirts, and we sure are excited to have those out in rotation. More info on some cool things and merch coming here very soon. You can also help us out by going to any and all social media platforms. That's right, you can follow the Renegades of Puck everywhere. You can find us on YouTube, of course, all of the different podcast platforms, all of the different social media platforms right there on the graphic. If you can find it, just search Renegades of Puck and you will find us. Please like, share, subscribe, support, comment, help us out. It doesn't cost you a penny and it doesn't take you but a couple of seconds, and it goes a long way to helping us build what we have such a great foundation of already here in the trenches and the bunker with the Renegades of Puck. So again, we'd appreciate each and every one of you for following along and helping us out. We added a lot of different platforms since last season, so again, we need help filling out those and bolstering those in each and every way. Venmo, it is the easiest way to become a partner of the Renegades of Puck, and so many of you Renegades donated so tremendously and generously over the summer months to help with the cookout and to help with several other events and projects that we have going on. We can't thank you enough. Just scan the QR code or go to Venmo and search Renegades of Puck, and you can make a donation. Any donation helps, whether it's enough for a cup of coffee or something more substantial. We are always very appreciative of your generosity. Thank you again so much. Built by Renegades for Renegades. It's what we do here in the trenches. Now, let's get to that no half step in hockey coverage. It's time for operation number 661. That's right, show 661 for the Renegades of Puck. We've been doing it for a very long time. Our second season on YouTube and in podcast form, but for 10 plus years before that on the radio, as many of you remember, under a different name of Predneck Nation Radio. Now the Renegades of Puck are thriving, not just surviving. Here from the bunker with all of our great Renegades, we'll be joined by many of them previewing the upcoming season for the Nashville Predators coming up throughout this episode. Let me recap last season very briefly and introduce you to this year's Nashville Predators team. Then we will turn it over to our incredible Renegade of Puck analysts to get you all set up for the global series coming up later on this week. We go back to 2022-23, or we start with the 2022-23 season preview, but to do that we have to go back to 2021-2022. The Nashville Predators finished the season with a record of 45-30-7, good for 97 points, fifth in the highly competitive Central Division, finishing behind Colorado, Minnesota, St. Louis, and Dallas. Of course, Colorado ended up being the eventual Stanley Cup winners, and again, the Central Division was incredibly competitive last season. Of the Predators' 45 victories, 25 of those came on home ice, 14 losses, 2 overtime or shootout losses, and also on the road, 20 victories, 16 losses, and 5 in overtime or in the shootout. The Predators scored 266 goals for and gave up 252 for a goal differential of plus 14. They finished in the playoffs as the 8th seed, which is the wild card 2. They were swept by the Colorado Avalanche, who of course went on to win the Stanley Cup. Now, records last year for the Nashville Predators, and this is something you simply cannot expect every single year. These records fell last year in numerous ways. Yossi broke the points record, now with 96 last season, 73 assists, also breaks the all-time franchise assists record in a single season. Matt Duchene broke the single season goal scoring record, now has 43 goals is what that record says. Edward Forsberg finished just one behind two, so two players broke the franchise goal scoring record last year, and the only players in Nashville Predators history to achieve 40 goals or more. And also Matt Duchene's 86 points would have beaten the record if not for Roman Josi finishing ahead of him. So Matt Duchene now second all-time in Nashville Predators history with 86 points, 1 point ahead of Paul Kariya's previous record of 85. So records all over the board. UC Saros competed for the number one spot in victories in the NHL amongst all goaltenders, 38 wins last season. These are things you just cannot expect every single season. Now, Roman Josi could be poised to have another incredible season, could be in the running for another potential Norris Trophy, but to expect 96 points out of a defenseman year in and year out when it's only happened once in the previous 30 years is not likely to happen. Now, Matt Duchene, Philip Forsberg could easily push for 40 goals again this season. The Nashville Predators have surrounded them with a little bit more offense going into this season. We'll get into that more when we get into the roster coming up in just a moment, but that lays out where the Nashville Predators finished last season. Now let's talk about where they are in this preseason. It was a highly spirited rookie training camp. Then it was a highly spirited camp leading into preseason. Now, if you believe in preseason results, which you really should not put a lot of weight behind the preseason results. The preseason is about getting in shape, getting your lines together, and starting to gel as a team. Rarely do the preseason results or preseason statistics lead to regular season success just because you had a winning record in the preseason. So the Nashville Predators, to recap though, on the 26th of September, it was a 4-3 overtime loss versus the Florida Panthers. That was the first of a doubleheader. Later that day, 4-0 victory versus the same Florida Panthers. On the 29th, Tampa Bay had to come here because of Hurricane Ian, and the Nashville Predators defeated them 2-0 in that preseason game. Turned around and played the same team the next day and defeated them 7-1. Clearly, Tampa Bay's minds were on something much more important and much bigger happening back in their home in Tampa with Hurricane Ian. They closed out the preseason just earlier today, as a matter of fact, with a 4-3 victory at SC Bern as part of the Global Series Challenge. Roman Josi in his hometown scored 2 goals, and that was simply the most electric atmosphere. Exhibition preseason, don't care what that game was technically called. That was one incredible environment, and it was a very special moment for the Nashville Predators captain Roman Josi to get to play in his hometown rink like that as the captain of an NHL team, bringing them over to his hometown to play in his rink. Simply incredible the way that all worked out, and the crowd and everything about that game was simply magnificent and electrifying. And for the Nashville Predators playing on the international-sized rink and also trying to get their body clocks straightened out, this was a great opportunity to get out there, skate, be loose, and get yourselves adjusted for what's coming up in the next couple of days, which is the beginning of the NHL season. So the Nashville Predators rolled right on through the preseason without any real hitches. Offensively, they put up 7 in one game. Goaltending looked very good. No problems there going into the season. We all know UC Saros coming back healthy. We expect he should be one of the top goaltenders in the NHL. Now, with the preseason behind us, what are the Nashville Predators up to next? Friday and Saturday, they will take on the San Jose Sharks in the NHL Global Series. This is simply going to be incredible. Now, make sure you check those start times because they are not your traditional local PM start times. So make sure you're checking those out once the Nashville Predators wrap up the 2-game set with the San Jose Sharks. By the way, this is not the first time in history the Nashville Predators have done this. Once they went over to Japan and played Pittsburgh Penguins at the beginning of a season in a back-to-back in this very same manner. Nobody on the Nashville Predators other than David Poile is going to be familiar with that experience going all the way back to 1998, but David Poile, at least experienced with it, and the Nashville Predators should do just fine opening up the season against San Jose. Then a couple of days off to travel back on home to Nashville on the 13th of October to take on the Dallas Stars in what will be the home opener, and then turn around immediately and on the 15th go to Dallas to face the Stars. So the Preds open the season with a back-to-back against San Jose and then 2 games against the Dallas Stars, home and away. And then the 18th of October, the LA Kings will be in Nashville. Now, taking a look at the roster and line projections going into this season before we turn it over to the Renegade of Puck analysts. In goal, Saros, Lankinen signing from free agency, and of course Connor Ingram, who had one pretty incredible game against the Colorado Avalanche last year in the first round of the playoffs and played incredibly well for the Milwaukee Admirals as well in the AHL playoffs as the Admirals advanced through the first round for the first time in many seasons last year. Lankinen is going to be the backup for the Nashville Predators, and you expect with a little bit of NHL experience, he's played against the Predators when he was with the Chicago Blackhawks, so Preds fans are familiar with him. He should be able to get the job done. Big save Dave just simply wasn't good enough in the position last year, and hopefully Lankinen can help UC Saros only play in about 60 games this year. We'll talk about that extensively as the episode goes along. Let's moving on to the D-Corps for the Nashville Predators, making the roster coming out of camp in preseason. Mark Borowiecki back on the team, Carrier back on the team, Ekholm and Fabro, of course, Jordan Gross, a new name to many Nashville Predators fans, Roman Josi, Luzon, and Ryan McDonough McDonough added to the Nashville Predators from the Tampa Bay Lightning, and that is going to make the Nashville Predators defense core much more solid than it was a year ago. We'll go over how he fits into the combinations here once we wrap up going over the roster. At forward, Duchesne, Forsberg, Glass, Granlund, and of course Jankowski is a new name to the Nashville Predators. Jeannot and Johansson, McCarron, Niederreiter, another new name to the Nashville Predators. Looking forward to him filling out the top six for the Nashville Predators. Sanford, Sherwood, Sissons, Smith, Tolvanen, Tomasino, and Trennan. I know that's a lot of names to run down, so let's talk about how these names will actually fit into the Nashville Predators line projections coming up. Forsberg, Granlund, and Duchesne, we saw this combination skate together and have much success. We mentioned Forsberg and Duchesne each having more than 40 goals last year, while Mikael Granlund also had a pretty damn good season from the pivot spot there as a first-line center. Also, one dogged, determined player that's willing to go to the hard areas. Love what Mikael Granlund has done since John Hines has taken over the Nashville Predators. So your first line going into the first game of the season looks like it's going to be Forsberg, Granlund, and Duchesne. Now, Niederreiter, new add to the team with Johansson, and Sherwood has been skating with this group in the preseason and been finding some success with the team. But I've got to wonder, Philip Tomasino, I thought for sure by this point in time, Philip Tomasino, who was well managed last year, would be up on the second line. So again, we'll discuss the philosophy behind this a little bit more coming up in a few minutes. But Niederreiter, Johansson, and Sherwood looks like what's going to be penned in for game one for the Nashville Predators against San Jose Sharks. Of course, the herd line, Trennan, Sissons, and Jeannot. And then your fourth line, Smith, that's Cole Smith, Glass, and Tolvanen now on the fourth line. So again, discussing some of these concepts and some of these line combinations coming up. And again, we all know that the line combinations are not going to look the same after the first 10 games of the season. They're going to look very different after the next 10 games. That's usually what happens in the first 20 or the first quarter of the season for the schedule. The Nashville Predators are a team that is not afraid to shift things up or make a change. David Poile has certainly done that in the past, making a trade usually between the 10 and 20 game mark of the season. Sometimes a very minor trade, sometimes bigger than that. The defense core expected projections for the Nashville Predators, Yossi and Carrier, great first pair last year. Alex Carrier came along so far in 1 year. Because of all the records, because of all the offense that was going on last year, I just don't think Carrier got nearly enough attention, nearly enough talk, and that's actually a good thing. He flew under the radar and now is a top pair defenseman alongside the captain Roman Josi. Very much looking forward to his progression and Roman Josi continuing to lead this team. This second defense pair has got a lot of talk in camp and preseason, and so far it looks like both of these moves are going to work out tremendously in favor of the Nashville Predators. Adding Ryan McDonough to this Nashville Predators team adds so much veteran presence, so much leadership, so much experience, and he is a classic stay-at-home, tough, physical, will move players away from the net defenseman, and pairing up with Matthias Ekholm, this is going to be a D pair that I think Nashville Predators fans are going to fall in love with and swoon over this upcoming season. Projected at this point, the third pair, Luzon and Fabro, but of course Borowiecki is going to factor in on this with Luzon getting an extension. You know that he's going to be a part of this. Dante Fabro is progressing, but so far should be ahead of where he is at this point. There, of course, will be some other options at D. UC Saros going to be the starting goaltender of the Nashville Predators, and that is obvious. Just a couple of thoughts on everything that I've given you so far, and then I'm going to turn it over to the Renegades of Puck for some analysis and predictions of what's going to come up this season. That second line right wing situation, Tomasino was well managed last year. His numbers were kept down. He played a lot of fourth line minutes, and he showed that he absolutely has the ability to put the puck in the net and play the game the right way. If he would have converted on a couple of those early season breakaways, his statistics would have looked a whole lot more impressive by the end, but they looked impressive enough for a rookie last year. If Philip Tomasino is healthy, I anticipate he should be up there on the second line. We'll see how things start to work themselves out after the next couple of games. Just because there was a good connection during preseason doesn't mean it's going to translate into the regular season, and Philip Tomasino showed in the past that he did have some good chemistry when it came to Ryan Johansson. We don't know. Niederreiter, a new teammate. That could be an interesting line. But Tolvanen, is he really falling and regressing so far that he is now expected to be on the fourth line? That means Tolvanen is probably not going to be a part of this team much longer, and that is very disappointing. When he first came up, it looked like he was going to be penned in to be a top 6 sniper for years to come, but last year took a step back and unable to regain his position in the lineup. He'll have an opportunity to fight. He's on the roster. He's going to be in the lineup. If he shows progression, he will get more minutes and he will get the opportunity. There is an opportunity for someone to step up and take that second line spot. Now, fourth line. What is the identity for this Nashville Predators fourth line? Now, we know that the Herd line, they bring all of the jam. They are physical, but they also bring plenty of offense. They are not just your traditional checking line. They are a hybrid second and fourth line all mixed together. They bring all of it on the third line. So what is this Nashville Predators fourth line going to be? Glass an opportunity to grow and mature at this level and become a better player at the NHL level. Last year, towards the end of the season with the Milwaukee Admirals, Glass really started to show why the Nashville Predators were so interested in bringing him onto this roster. Now, Tolvanen, a chance to earn more minutes. Is that what he's doing on the fourth line? And Cole Smith, an opportunity, maybe one of his last, to stick here at the NHL level. So for the Nashville Predators, I need to know what they expect out of this fourth line and what the identity is going to be for this fourth line. They're clearly not set up to be a classic go out there and knock teams around fourth line. When Tolvanen is on the fourth line, you are not going to be getting that type of play. He's tough. He'll go out there and put the body on somebody without a doubt. But I'm talking about the traditional plugs and goons that you would put on a fourth line. The Preds are not doing that. It looks like they're expecting a young line to go out there and perhaps learn as the season goes along and hopefully contribute offensively to the lineup. When it comes to the D, I already mentioned McDonough. I'm so extremely happy the Nashville Predators went out and got him. Ekholm had to switch sides to make it easy for McDonough to come in and slot right in, but that actually makes things easier for Mattias Ekholm. Switching sides, yes, it comes with some difficulties, but this also, with this pairing, frees Ekholm to roam, and that could lead to some incredible numbers this season. Mattias Ekholm has it all as a defenseman. I know sometimes people question what he can and can't do out there on the ice, but we have seen in incredible spurts that he can put up goals in a number of games, and he can also put up plenty of assists. He can move the puck, and he's going to get more opportunities than he's ever had to do that with Ryan McDonough as his defensive partner. I think this is a win-win for Mattias Ekholm, and bringing McDonough in is just going to make Nashville Predators fans incredibly happy. Again, I think it's one of the best trades and signings that the Nashville Predators have put together in quite some time. And in goal, we know UC Saros is expected to be one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. He was a Vezina finalist last year. If not for the injury, the Nashville Predators would have been more competitive against the Colorado Avalanche. Sure, the Colorado Avalanche would have beaten the Preds and still gone on to win the Stanley Cup championship, but the Nashville Predators would have been more competitive than being swept if they had UC Saros, one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. What's going to matter most is keeping UC Saros down to around 60 games, not overexposing him, and keeping him from getting worn down, because this Nashville Predators team should be a playoff team. They'll have every opportunity. They should be better than they were last year. Finishing 5th in the Central Division was good enough to get yourself a playoff position. Now, that switches from year to year, but the Central Division still holds the power of dominance in the Western Conference over the Pacific without a doubt, and the Nashville Predators can start to impose the Central's will over the Pacific with this 2-game set against the San Jose Sharks. So, Lankinen, can he keep things down and under control for about 20 to 23 games this season? That's what the Nashville Predators are hoping. That's what we here in the trenches are hoping. And I got to tell you, the future is bright. If you didn't have a chance to see him, you didn't have a chance to check out the coverage, go look at our YouTube page. We were at development camp, and we got to see Askarov's first appearances here in Nashville. Simply incredible, otherworldly, all the things that you've heard and more. It's right there on our YouTube page. We practically have a whole playlist dedicated to Askarov. Askarov content is something that we are looking forward to providing for years and years to come. The kid is the real deal. The Nashville Predators have UC Saros right now, but the future is incredibly bright when it comes to goal. He'll be in Milwaukee now, and he'll probably get the opportunity to start a lot of games. So for the Nashville Predators, we will track that right here, because Askarov is just simply a prospect worth knowing about all the time. Well, if I'm talking about all this goaltender stuff, then there's only one guy I need to kick it over to, and that's Greg Machopoulos. He's back for another season as a starting goaltender of the Renegades of Puck. You can find him on Twitter at GreekGoalie35. He is the one and only Mostradamus. Mosh, preview this season and tell me all about the Nashville Predators in net. After all, it's your domain.
Thank you very much, Charlie. It's great to be back for another season of Renegades of Puck TV. I am excited to be back for yet another season, and session 661 also in the books now. Nashville Predators, of course, heading into this season. Goaltending situation, we know about UC Saros, of course, and who could blame the coaching staff for barely giving him a look during preseason? We know what UC Saros brings to the table. You're looking at 60 to 70 starts this season with UC Saros if he remains healthy. Preferably closer to the 60 range. You don't want him being overworked as we saw last season. What can happen in the blink of an eye, and you lose all hope in the playoffs when you have UC Saros out for the playoff season. Last season, of course, there was David Riddick as the backup, and he, quite frankly, didn't live up to what the Predators needed last season. It was a mess for the majority of the time. Did get some victories for them, but again, did not perform up to the level that the Preds needed to give UC Saros some decent rest during that time. So we went from David Riddick and really no other option really for the Nashville Predators as a backup goaltender to suddenly having a goaltender competition for the number 2 spot. Kevin Lankinen signed over from Chicago. Connor Ingram was another year seasoned. And of course, Yaroslav Askarov. Now, we talked about it last season. Askarov not quite ready to be the backup goaltender for UC Saros. I said this before. He's probably another season away from being an NHL goaltender full-time as UC Saros' backup. I saw Askarov in person. I saw Lankinen in person when I was in Nashville. Lankinen did all he could to keep his backup position there, and that's certainly the way it's going to go. Lankinen is going to be the backup goaltender. That's what he was signed for, and he earned his spot in the preseason. He went quite a bit without even giving up any goals during preseason. I know it's just, exhibition hockey, but that's what you have. You have other competition out there, and he did his job. He's going to be the backup goaltender for the Nashville Predators full-time, barring any injuries or barring any major setbacks from Lankinen. He didn't have any help in Chicago last season, so his numbers really very flawed, if you ask me, considering what he had to work with up in Chicago and that whole rebuild situation that they have up there. Now, that's not to say that this is bad news for the believers of Connor Ingram or Askarov, but this just means that the goaltending depth in this organization is as deep as ever. When you have somebody like UC Saros, who's still in his prime and just getting better and better, it seems, every season. You have Lankinen in there as a stopgap to give him some rest throughout the season. And then, of course, Connor Ingram had some good glimpses last season of brilliance. And then, of course, went back to Milwaukee after the Preds' playoff season was over and got outworked by Devin Cooley. So Cooley was also a guy up in Milwaukee that was getting some looks. It's probably going to be Cooley and Askarov up in Milwaukee for this season, again, barring any sort of setbacks or injuries for the Nashville goaltending setup this season. The Predators' defense, a staple of David Poile, strong on the blue line. This should help out UC Saros quite a bit. You have somebody like Ryan McDonough who brings that veteran leadership, that Stanley Cup pedigree on that blue line. You have him with Yossi, Ekholm, Fabro, Carrier, Borowiecki. I mean, you have a deep, deep blue line for the Nashville Predators. We've talked for years and years and years, and it's the case for most NHL teams. Don't have your third defensive unit really kill you when they're out there. And the Preds have enough depth to compete with anybody as far as the blue liners go, and that can only help somebody like UC Saros help his saves per game down, get him a little bit more rest, not having to work as hard as we saw the last couple seasons. Many, many games making 40-plus saves, even 50-plus saves in certain scenarios as well. So blue line will help UC Saros out this season. A better backup goalie will also help him out. UC Saros should be up there once again for the Vezina Trophy in the 2022-2023 season. Charlie, back to you.
He's the one and only Mostradamus. You can find him on Twitter at GreekGoalie35. You can watch him right here on Renegades of Puck TV and listen to him on the Renegades of Puck podcast. Mosh has been backstopping the Renegades of Puck for so many years. I can't even remember how many games he has started now for the Renegades of Puck, but he is absolutely in the Renegades of Puck Hall of Fame. Mosh, stick taps, love and respect to you. Sure to appreciate you, my friend. Rebirth Sports. You see me wearing the home jersey right here. You see me wearing the road jersey, the third jersey. Well, all of those are available for sale right now through October the 15th. 15th. We also have hoodies now for sale. Rebirth Sports does such an incredible job. You can check out their work for yourself at rebirthsports.com or go find them on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just search Rebirth Sports. They're simply otherworldly. They can take a vision and make it a reality, and they've been doing that for the Renegades of Puck and the hockey community at large for a long time. Sure do thank everybody at Rebirth Sports for helping with the Renegades of Puck. Stick taps, love, and respect to you, my friends. Appreciate you being back in the trenches for another season. Now, also back in the trenches for another season is Sean C. Smith. But some new intel on Sean C. Smith that we need to get across to you before we kick it over to him. On Twitter, the new handle for Sean C. Smith is at SCSNSH. That's at SCSNSH. It'll also be in his graphic in just a second. Also need to mention that Sean is now working for different outlets. He is working for A to Z Sports right now and the co-host of On the Preds podcast. Of course, you can find him right here on Renegades of Puck, and you can find Sean C. Smith just about everywhere. He's a real rock star when it comes to covering the Nashville Predators and hockey at large. Love this guy's opinion. I love having him back on the show for another season. He is the one and only Sean C. Smith.
Thanks, Charlie. Hey, Renegades, it's Sean C. Smith back again for another season with the Renegades of Puck. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm really glad to be here, and I'm really glad that everybody's tuned back in to take care of another year of business when it comes to Predators hockey with all of us here at the Renegades of Puck. Let me say this. A couple of things have changed for me this offseason. Number one, I switched from ontheforecheck.com to A to Z Sports.com. Once you get there, you can find all kinds of coverage of all Nashville sports. You might want to click on Nashville, and you might want to go directly to the Predators page. It's a lot easier to find my work there. I'm writing there with Alex Doherty, who's been with A to Z for quite a while. We still have our podcast, and I'll be writing a lot of stuff for A to Z Sports this season. Still covering all the games just like I did before. I'll either be there in person, be watching at home, or, of course, if they're on the road, be watching from afar. But either way, I'll still have all the same access I had last year, and my big goal for this season is to keep up with the storylines. Last season and the season before that, I feel like I did a really good job of keeping everybody up to date on the major storylines that were going throughout the season, starting with the team building an identity to the team really finding a solid third line and the herd line with Jeannot, Trennan, and Sissons, and those guys coming together, really gelling. And I think we looked at the resurgence of Ryan Johansson and Matt Duchene last season. Now we've had some changes in the offseason to the team as well. The team has added Nino Niederreiter, which should be a big upgrade on the second line, as well as Ryan McDonough, who's going to be playing on that second pairing with Matthias Ekholm, who switched over to play on the right side, which solves one of the big problems that I've been dealing with over at A to Z Sports all summer long is how are these pairings going to look? And that's one of the biggest things I've been keeping up with over the summer. And of course, we've got Mosh to talk to you about goalies, so I'm not even going to get into that. But over at A to Z Sports, I cover that as well. So we'll be covering those big storylines throughout the season as they develop. Of course, the biggest one right now is who's going to be on the roster opening night, which will be in Prague against the San Jose Sharks. So it's a little bit different because the team can carry 27 players while they're on this European trip. So what the roster looks like when they get back is going to be a little bit different. However, I think you're going to see Zach Sanford down on the fourth line. I think you're going to see Cody Glass centering that fourth line. And over on the other side, I think you're going to find Eli Tolvanen over there. And I think Philip Tomasino is going to be on that second line with Nino Niederreiter and Ryan Johansson. First line, third line, staying exactly the same. First pairing, probably Roman Josi. Probably going to see Alexander Carrier over there. Second pairing, McDonough and Ekholm. In the third pairing, my guess is that you're going to see most of the time is Jeremy Lauzon and Dante Fabro. Now, you might see Mark Borowiecki come in for some starts, especially if someone gets hurt. But I think that's going to be a pretty solid defensive pairing setup for the Preds moving forward. So that's a preview of what I think how this year is going to start out, which is the big thing you need to know before the games come up against San Jose. Of course, the team has 3 goaltenders, but I'm pretty sure that when they get back, Connor Ingram's going to make his way to Milwaukee with Kevin Lankinen backing up UC Saros. That's kind of what I foresee happening. That's all the news you need to know between now and those games. So, Charlie, I'm going to send it back over to you. And hey, Renegades, thanks for tuning back in.
From A to Z Sports and co-host of On the Preds podcast, he is the one and only Sean C. Smith. Catch him on Twitter at his new handle at SCSNSH. That's at SCSNSH. I say it to remind you as much as I say it repeatedly to remind myself to make sure I get that right as we move along throughout the season. Another welcome back into the trenches, Strong Style Fitness. If you were out at the cookout recently, you got a chance to meet up with Strong Style Fitness, get some good physical fitness advice, and even get in a good stretch at Charlie Daniels Park in Mount Juliet before we got started with the Renegades of Puck Welcome Back Hockey Cookout. Well, they are back in the trenches for another season of sponsoring the Renegades of Puck, and we are so incredibly appreciative. You can find Strong Style Fit online, strongstylefit.com, or online, social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Reach out to Strong Style Fitness now. It is never too early to get started on your physical fitness plans and to get yourself moving and motivated, and this is the person that can help you with it. Tracy does an incredible job over at Strong Style Fitness and has been simply an incredible partner to the Renegades of Puck. So stick taps, love, and respect. A lot of that going around today because we're so happy to be back and we're so appreciative of having everybody back in the lineup for the Renegades of Puck. Now it's time to talk to Rachel K from ontheforecheck.com, managing editor from ontheforecheck.com, at Rachel KH79, at Rachel KH79. Again, it'll be on the graphic while she's talking. She's doing secret intel from some secret location, so no video available, but an audio report from the front lines from Rachel K from ontheforecheck.com right now.
What's up, Captain Charlie? It's Rachel checking in from my command post out here in Williamson County. Let me just tell you how excited I am about this season for our boys in gold. I have a feeling it's going to be a big one. So, the Admirals just released an extensive training camp roster, and because the Preds had to make cuts early due to the Global Series, the list is long. We see guys like Cole Schneider, the captain, Igor Afanasyev, and Tomi Novak. In goal, however, there's a lot to be excited about. We have Devin Cooley, the playoff king from last season, looking for time alongside our famous Yaroslav Askarov and Thomas Vomaka. One of these guys, if not more than one, will have to look for time outside the Admirals. Where might that be? I can see situations in which Nashville loans goalies to an ECHL team or maybe even to another AHL club. I don't think any of these guys get cut, but what a freaking goaltender competition to have. Vomaka spent time in Florida last year with the Everblades, and I know the Preds front office is going to want to see what Askarov can do on North American ice after a weird season in the KHL. He's a first-round pick after all. You guys saw what he did in training camp. The kid is impressive. Nashville fans, as always, have a lot to be excited about in Milwaukee. You can catch AHL games on their nifty streaming service quite easily, so you have no excuse not to tune into what's going on up in Wisconsin. How about Luke Evangelista playing in his first non-COVID pro season? What about the little-known guys like Marcus Nurmi or Navrin Mutter? I don't even know if I'm pronouncing their names correctly, but we're going to know soon. We'll make sure you know about these guys as the second season of Renegades content is released from the bunker. Don't forget that one of the best local prospect writers, Eric, writes for our local Predators blog, On the Forecheck. You absolutely should be following him on Twitter at On the Future. He's all the prospect coverage Nashville needs. He's an absolute gem. I'm keeping my eye on Luke Prokop in Milwaukee. And of course, I'm going to be watching the goaltender battles too. Who will you be keeping track of? As always, go Ads and go Preds. Back to you, Captain.
That's Rachel K from ontheforecheck.com. You can find her on Twitter at RachelKH79. That's at RachelKH79. Check out her great work at ontheforecheck.com. Incredible crew, incredible people over there. You've heard about ontheforecheck.com from me for many, many years. I've always had an affiliation with that organization, and I'm so appreciative to have them back in the trenches with the Renegades of Puck. Got a chance to talk to Rachel and do some planning and strategy out there at the Renegades of Puck Welcome Back Hockey Cookout. It's great to have her and her entire entire family out there. And Rachel, I sure do appreciate all the hard work that you do to help the hockey community. Thank you. Stick taps, love, and respect. So much of that to say today. So much of it, and I sure do have fun with it. Stripe Digital Solutions is also back for another season of sponsoring the Renegades of Puck, and you know about the otherworldly work that is done by Stripe Digital Solutions. Right now, Stripe Digital Solutions is hard at work on graphics for upcoming projects for the Renegades of Puck, but you've seen all of the incredible graphics over the years. You've seen the website, renegadesofpuck.com, all of the t-shirts that have been designed, and also our social media plan. I have been given about a 24-point plan on how I can build my brand and make my social media presence better and better all the time, and Stripe Digital Solutions has put together such a comprehensive help guide for me that it's going to take me probably half the season to implement all of it, but that is just how thorough and how great and how incredible Stripe Digital Solutions is. I encourage each and every one of you, the way the world is today, you need the strongest digital partner you can find, and there is nobody stronger than Stripe Digital Solutions. Let me give you the website so you can go check it out for yourself. StripeDigitalSolutions.com or Stripe Digital Solutions Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Sure to appreciate Brandy and Bill over at Stripe Digital Solutions and how much work they do for us here in the bunker and for the Renegades of Puck. Brian Baston, he is my guy with the numbers. He's got the charts you need to see and the numbers you need to know. He is also from ontheforecheck.com. He is the manager of the Renegade Analytics Desk, and I look forward to Brian continue to grow, prosper, and thrive in the role that he has carved out for himself in this market. There's a lot of people out there that push numbers and push analytics, but nobody does it as good as Brian Baston. Brian, take me behind the scenes and tell me about your numbers. I want to hear all about this upcoming season.
Thanks a lot, Charlie. It is great to be back at the Renegade Analytics Desk for another season of Predators hockey, and we have just concluded the preseason, and so once again, I'm going to be providing you some numbers, and for those of you who don't really dig the analytics thing or think these numbers are fake, well, guess what? It is your lucky day today because these are preseason numbers, and so they super don't matter, but I still think they're pretty interesting, so let's look over what Nashville has done in their 4.5 preseason games if you include today's 4-3 victory over SC Bern. So let's look over some of the numbers and what we saw from the team in the preseason. Now, including the SC Bergen game, in the 5 games that the Nashville Predators played in the preseason, they outscored opponents 20-8. Obviously, they finished with a 4-0-1 record, with their only overtime loss being in the first game against Florida. They did pretty well on a lot of other metrics as well. They outshot their opponents in those 5 games 153 to 133. So that's about it's a shots for percentage of 53.5%. So that's good. They maintain possession, even though a lot of these games actually weren't that close. And so, you know, usually when you see teams that are trailing, they're going to have a whole lot more shots on goal as they try to catch up. But Nashville was actually able to control that as the games went on. Again, this is preseason, may not matter, may not be a signal of things to come, but it's encouraging to see, and it's a whole lot better to see really good stats in the preseason than really bad ones. Another thing, speaking of good stats, is the special teams in there. Now, unfortunately, Nashville still looked like Nashville when it came to penalties. They finished the preseason with 63 penalty minutes, including 12 against SC Bern. Not necessarily what you want to see, but you know, that's what it is. There were a couple of fighting majors that caused some of those numbers to go up, especially in that second Tampa Bay game. You always have the Corey Perry effect when you're playing a team that he's on. But Nashville did finish 5 of 18 on the power play for a power play percentage of 21.7. Obviously, they finished 6th in the league last season with a 24.4, which was a franchise record, but this is still pretty good. Even taking away the power play goal that they scored against SC Bern today, they still did pretty well. Still had 4 goals on 15 attempts. Not bad for the Nashville Predators. Now, again, they did have a whole lot of penalty minutes and actually had 21 penalty kills that they had to execute during the entire game. And they only gave up a single power play goal, and that was to SC Bern today. Not to the Florida Panthers, not to the Tampa Bay Lightning, but to SC Bern. So they went 95.5% on the penalty kill and a clean 100% against NHL teams. So that's looking good. Again, if they're not going to change their ways about committing a whole lot of penalties every single game, then they better have a penalty kill that operates this well. Now let's look at some of the individual contributions and who kind of really shone out through the preseason. Now, obviously, a lot of these games were split squad games, so we didn't see a lot of players. Some guys like Mikhail Granlund only played in the last 2 preseason games. I was told by the staff that there was no medical issues. They were just not having him play. But let's see how these guys did. Now, again, this is going to be including today's game against SC Bern. I know that it's not an NHL team, but this is preseason, doesn't matter anyway. So let's look at that. Leading all players in goals and assists in this preseason is, of course, who else could it be but Matt Duchene. He ended the preseason, these 5 games, with 3 goals and 4 assists to lead with 7 points. Still pretty impressive. Duchene had a great game today against SC Bern. Obviously had a tremendous day in the second matchup against Tampa Bay, where he had 5 points on the night. And you see this. I mean, Duchene, Forsberg, and Granlund is just a lethal combination, and it hopefully will continue to be that way in the preseason. Another guy who actually tied Duchene for goals in this preseason was Tanner Jeannot. And that herd line was very, very efficient this preseason. They picked up right where they left off, but Jeannot had 3 goals and 3 assists for 6 points, finishing 1 assist shy of Jeannot. 3 other players had 2 goals. Those were Philip Forsberg, Roman Josi, who scored both of his goals today against SC Bern, and surprisingly enough, Colton Sissons, who also had 2 goals. Out of those players, Forsberg finished with 5 points with 3 assists. Josi had a single assist today against SC Bern, and Sissons didn't have any assists, but still 2 goals is pretty impressive. Another thing that's impressive is throughout this preseason, even though there was a much bigger roster, over 50 players throughout most of it, 22 different players scored a point for the Nashville Predators. And a lot of those players were guys that were coming in from rookie camp. Obviously, we had guys like Juuso Parssinen finish with with a goal and an assist. You look at Nino Niederreiter, also had a new addition there. He had a goal and assist. We saw a goal from Alexander Carrier, Cody Glass, John Leonard, Zach Sanford. Of course, we've seen the rise of Kiefer Sherwood, who actually didn't get on the score sheet, but obviously has been doing a whole lot of things right because he's gotten extended time to play alongside Ryan Johansson and Nino Niederreiter. So there's a lot to like about the preseason and how it's gone so far. Again, do these numbers matter? Will they translate to the regular season? We don't know. Most likely not. But we're seeing a lot of encouraging things that match what we saw last season. We saw that top line can score, and they're going to facilitate each other to be able to score. We know that the herd line is going to create mismatch problems, and that their chemistry and their hard forechecking are create opportunities in the defensive zone when they create turnovers. And, of course, the Predators are going to take penalties, but like last season, they have been able to actually leverage and turn special teams into somewhat of a specialty for them, pardon the pun. I don't think they're going to be able to go 100% on the penalty kill and against NHL teams like they did in the preseason again, but it's highly encouraging, especially that SC Bern was the only team in 21 tries to score a goal on the Nashville Predators this preseason. But as we know, the preseason now is at an end, and games now start to matter. And those 2 games against San Jose overseas in the Czech Republic will be the first time I'll be able to sit down with you guys and talk about some real numbers, some analytics, and talk about how this team is doing and how they've improved from last year. So once again, it's glad to be back in the saddle, and back to you, Charlie.
You can find him on Twitter at Brian Baston. You can check out his work at ontheforecheck.com. You can watch him right here on Renegades of Puck TV, here on the Renegades of Puck podcast. He's got the charts you need to see and the numbers you need to know. He is the one and only Brian Baston. If you step to him in the digital realm, you will lose. Believe it. Now, let's move on. We've got a couple more things to talk about before we wrap up the first episode. Man, I am legit so happy to be back with you guys and to be back in the bunker. And we're going to keep working on things and building things, and I'll get to all that. Before I head on out from the bunker, just want to talk to you about one more thing. And of course, the ultimate one's going to be here to close the show. But I want to tell you about Ships and Trips Travel. It's going to be taking the Renegades of Puck on the road trip of a lifetime. The Renegades of Puck are going to Vegas. We will be in Vegas for New Year's Eve. Then we will be at the game on New Year's Day. Preds versus Golden Knights. The ultimate one's going to have some more details coming up here in just a second. But then we'll tell you how you can join the Renegades of Puck in paradise next summer. It is going to be incredible. incredible. There is a huge name that is going to be on the trip with us that we are waiting to announce here in just a little bit, but all the details, all the information is coming out soon. That is thanks to our brand new and incredible partnership with Ships and Trips Travel. We sure do appreciate them. Please check them out online. We'll be getting you all the information, all the details, and telling you a lot more about this company and this partner coming up in the next several episodes. We can't wait for you to join us on the road trip of a lifetime, and we can't wait to see you in paradise next summer. And who knows, maybe the summer after that, we'll see you on a huge cruise ship somewhere out in the middle of the Atlantic playing hockey. You never know what we're going to do. There's always something going on when it comes to the Renegades of Puck. I can't express how excited and how happy and how appreciative I am to be here with each and every one of you and have back in the trenches with the Renegades of Puck, every one of the Renegade correspondents. Others will be joining throughout the season, and who knows, we probably haven't even discovered the latest and greatest Renegade of Puck correspondent yet, but if you're out there and you're interested, all you got to do is hit us up. Show a little bit of initiative. If you want to be in the trenches and you want to be part of the team, you know how to find us. It's easy enough. We are everywhere. Now it's time to turn it over to the ultimate one to wrap up episode number 661 of the Renegades of Puck. Again, so thankful, so appreciative, so happy to be back in the bunker. We will have a show after the Preds and the Sharks on Friday. We'll also have another show on Saturday after the Preds and the Sharks game 2. We'll have it all wrapped up. Game coverage each and every game right here in the bunker. Nobody does it better than us when it comes to the game recap. You give me 10 minutes, I'll give you the entire game, and then you give the Renegades of Puck another 20 minutes, and we'll give you the analysis, the info, the stats, and everything that you need to know about what just happened out there at the rink. Nashville Predators coverage, Middle Tennessee hockey coverage, well beyond the borders. That right here from the Renegades of Puck and in the bunker. I'm your host and captain, Crazy Charlie Saunier. Stick tabs, love, respect. Ulti, finish it up.
It's good to be back. But first, I want to make sure we get something straight off the bat. We've got something super exciting for all the Renegades out there, for all Nashville hockey fans out there, and I promise you, it's no joke. That's right. The Renegades of Puck have partnered up with Ships and Trips Travel for a New Year's Eve blowout in Las Vegas, Nevada. Las Vegas, Nevada? New Year's Eve? You're damn right. We're a jack of all trades, and we're pulling out all the stops when it comes to serving you, our fans, and you, the Nashville hockey community. We're going to be sending you to Las Vegas on New Year's Day, where you can watch your beloved Nashville Predators take on the Golden Knights and watch as we whoop ass and we take over Nevada by storm. You want to be treated like a king? Well, the only way to do it is to do it with the Renegades of Puck. So make sure you're following us here and everywhere on social media platforms. Make sure you're following each and every individual Renegade that you've seen here and on every social media platform. And we will keep you up to date on what's happening and what could be happening in the future. Because if you know nothing else about the Renegades, it's that we've always got an ace up our sleeve and something big planned down the road. Charlie, I'm looking forward to a great season, and we will see each and every one of our fans in Vegas. Let's go.